Hello guys, this is Expiredmilk here, and as you can tell by the title I put in this video, this is gonna be about the deadline, my thoughts, and I'm just gonna be naming off the trades I think are worth mentioning. I'm gonna kind of say who I think won the trade, or if both teams won, and I'm gonna give you basic analysis of what I think of the trade. So these are just some more of the bigger trades that I thought happened, and the trades to mention. So if you guys don't hear a certain trade, then probably it wasn't a big trade I think was worth mentioning. So anyways, let's get into this. Okay. So first trade I'm gonna mention is the Detroit Red Wings. They got David Legwand from the Nashville Predators for Patrick Eves, prospect, Kelly Jarn Kroc, and a third-round draft choice on Wednesday. To be honest, I think both teams won in this deal because you look at the Nashville Predators, and in my opinion, I wouldn't say they're a rebuild team, like a full-on rebuild, but I would say they're a team that is trying to retool with their players, gets most of their older players traded. And I think the Detroit Red Wings, I think they got a good player in Legwand, and they're a team that wants to win right now, and they have a lot of injuries right now, like Datsuk, Zetterberg, and Helm. I believe I'm not 100% on that, but I'm pretty sure that's who's injured. So I think David Legwand is a good player to bring to Detroit and a good fit for the team. And for Nashville, they got some prospects, and they got what they really needed at this point of the franchise for their team. So that's who I think won the trade. Both teams, in my opinion. So Nashville got what they wanted: the young players, a prospect goalie, and a third-round pick, which isn't bad for Legwand. It's what they could use for their team, and Detroit got a good player in Legwand that they can use right now. Okay, so next trade, let's look at it. Rafael Diaz was acquired by the Rangers for a fifth-round pick from the Vancouver Canucks. I think if I had to choose a winner, which I am, I'm gonna say the Rangers won this trade. The reason is, a team like Vancouver, they traded Dale Weiss for Rafael Diaz, right? And Dale Weiss was a good forward, not like a 50-goal scorer or anything, but a good third or fourth line depth player. And Diaz, so they got back Diaz, who's what I think is a very good defenseman for that bottom six, possibly top four. And so they trade him for a fifth-round pick. I don't know, if you're gonna trade him for someone with something that low of value, you should have just kept him. It is a cap drop-off, but I think the Rangers got a good defenseman for pretty cheap, and I think Vancouver should have just kept him. It's what they could have used, but instead they just trade him. Not even for a player that they can use right now. Like if they traded him for, let's say, I don't think this would work, but let's say for Brad Boyle, that'd be a good trade for both teams. If the Canucks, because the Canucks could use a forward, but no, they just traded him for a pick. So I think the Rangers just won this trade. Just my opinion. You guys have your own opinions. Yeah. So next is Andre Mazzaros to the Boston Bruins for a third-round pick to the Flyers. Even though I'm a Flyers fan, I have to say I think the Bruins won just for the value they gave up. For Mazzaros, a third-round pick, that's kind of low. Mazzaros is a good defenseman. I think he's 26 or 27, not too sure. And they just got a third-round pick. Third-round picks can turn out to be good players, but not really a player like Mazzaros. But I think the reason the Flyers did this is they traded for Andrew McDonald, a player who has some cap to him. So I guess he kind of needed to give some cap away. But if you're going to trade Mazzaros, at least get a second or a first, in my opinion. But, not terrible, but I would have liked if they got more for him. So yeah, that's my opinion on that trade. Next is, Tim Thomas for Dan Ellis. So Florida traded Tim Thomas for Dan Ellis. So they traded him to the Dallas Stars. So I think this trade was good for both teams because, as most of you know, Florida acquired Roberto Luongo, and if you want to keep Luongo, you have to get rid of Thomas because Thomas has some cap to him. I believe $4 million, somewhere around that ballpark. And I don't know what the hell I just said there, ballpark, but he has some cap to him, and I don't think you should really play someone with that much cap as your backup. So I think it was good for the Panthers, and the Stars, they got a veteran goaltender in there, so I think that's a pretty good trade for both teams. I'm gonna say both teams won on that trade. Next trade is to the Wild. The Wild got forward Matt Moulson. They got Matt Moulson, and hold on. Minnesota received forward Cody McComrick, forward Torrey Mitchell, a second-round pick. Hold on. I'm just checking. I don't think they're showing. I think they traded Molson. Hold on, I'm just checking right now, guys. Sorry, it's kind of unprofessional. Come on. So, I can't find the exact trade, but I think the Wild got Matt Moulson and a player. I'm not sure which player. I don't think it was a big player. It may have been a third or fourth liner, and they traded him to Buffalo for Torrey Mitchell and some picks. I think both teams definitely won in this trade. The Wild could use some offense, and a player like Matt Moulson is definitely good. And I think that Danny Heatley's going to be a free agent if he doesn't resign with the Wild, which I think is a good chance of happening. Is a good chance of happening. So I think Moulson can kind of replace Heatley, and he's a good replacement for sure. I think he's a little bit better than Heatley. So I think Matt Moulson's definitely going to help the Wild out a lot. And Buffalo, this is just what they wanted. They wanted to trade an old guy, not an old guy, but a player around Matt Moulson's age for picks. And that's what they wanted because they're clearly in a rebuild stage. So if you're trading your older player for picks, that's a pretty good idea. So yeah, I think both teams won in this trade. Buffalo got the picks that they probably wanted for Matt Moulson, and the Wild got a veteran like Moulson that can help them right now. Sorry about that Moulson thing. I wasn't thinking too much there. The next big trade is Gaborik to the Kings. So what the Kings traded for Marian Gaborik was Matt Fradden, a second-round pick, a third-round pick. And the third-round pick turns into a second-round pick if the Kings win one round in the Stanley Cup playoffs, or if Gaborik, an upcoming free agent, resigns with LA, according to the Columbus Dispatch. So I'm not too sure. I don't know. It's gonna be hard for me to say who won this trade, but in my opinion, I think the Kings won this trade. A player like Gabrick, who has been proven to be an offensive powerhouse, just gets traded for Matt Fradden, a good player, but most likely a second liner of the future, a third liner for right now, and just for a second and third, like that's kind of cheap. Like when he got traded to Columbus last year, like Columbus, they had to trade like 4 prospects and like what, a first, like that was pretty big, and like all they're getting back now is just Matt Fradden, a decent second line player of the future, and a second and third round. So and the Columbus could use a player like Gabrick, but I don't think he was performing too well, so maybe that's why they traded him. I'm not too sure. But I don't know. They traded him for something too cheap, in my opinion. Definitely way too cheap, in my opinion, for what they got back for him. They should have at least gotten a first in there. At least a first, like maybe Matt Fradden and a first, something like that. And yeah, the Kings won because they were a pretty bad scoring team right now. So Gabrick could help them. And yeah, so that's who I think won that trade. So the Kings won that trade because they got Gabrick for really cheap, in my opinion. Okay, the next trade, I think it's going to be the Halak trade. The Capitals traded Halak and a third round pick in the 2015 NHL draft from the Buffalo Sabres for Mikhail Neuvirth and defenseman Radislav Kessler, I think. Yeah, so I think both teams won in this trade because Halak's not a player who fit well on the Sabres, because he's an old player who should probably be playing on a winning team. And what they got back is a fairly young goaltender in Neuvirth. And yeah, so they got Neuvirth and Kessler. So I think Neuvirth is pretty good, because say the Sabres are a playoff team in, I don't know, 3 years, 2 years. Let's say that they got a goalie like Neuvirth who can help them, because I think he is a pretty decent goalie. I don't think he was playing too well right now, but he's a pretty average goalie, and he's not too old for the Sabres. He fits in well for right now. And the Capitals got a goalie improvement from Mikhail Neuvirth for right now, and they already have Holtby. So yeah, so like they didn't really need Neuvirth, and they kind of got an upgrade. So I think that was pretty good for them. And the third round pick, it's not too much to give up. So I think both teams won because Buffalo got a good goalie that they can use for the next few years, and they did get a pick. No, I think they got also, yeah, they also got the pick, and the Capitals got an upgrade in net for right now that they can play. So I think both teams won. So Buffalo seems to be making some good deals at the deadline. Okay, next, the Thomas Vanek deal. Okay. I think Vanek. So they traded So the Islanders traded Thomas Vanek to the Montreal Canadiens for prospects Sebastian Kohlberg and a 2014 second round pick. One thing I gotta say, the Islanders traded Vanek for something really cheap. And the reason I think that is probably, the reason I think that happened, why he got traded for so cheap, is I think this was kind of a last minute deal. It was either this or let Vanek walk to free agency. But they did trade him for pretty cheap, because a second round pick, that's not too bad. But Cole Brown thing is like anything special, so I think they should have traded him for a first round pick. But this was kind of a last minute deal, I assume. So they got a second round pick and a prospect back, and the Montreal Canadiens got a solid second line or possibly first line player to help them out for right now, because of course the Canadiens, I'm pretty sure they're going for a cup this season, or at least trying to compete for one. So I think Vanek is a good addition to the team. But the Islanders kind of traded him for too cheap, so I think I'm going to give my edge to the to the Montreal Canadiens for this deal. I think they won it just by a bit. Now the next deal, Martin St. Louis. The Martin St. Louis deal. This was a big one. You could have kind of you kind of saw it coming. St. Louis was asking for a trade. So let's tell the trade. Okay, so the trade was St. Louis was traded to the Tampa Bay Lightning for Ryan Callahan, a first round pick, and a conditional second round pick. I gotta say, this kind of helps both teams, but the Tampa Bay Lightning kind of won. I'll get into that. But I think this helps both teams just because St. Louis was asking for a deal and Callahan had to be moved. They were both right wingers. They were both like near the same amount of skill. They were both as good as each other, skill wise. They were both good skill wise. They were about the same kind. They were about they were kind of as good as each other. So it was kind of a swap. But the first round pick and the second round pick, I think that was a little bit too much that the Rangers kind of traded there. The first round pick, that can turn out to be a good player, and the second round pick can turn out to be something decent. So I gotta say, I think the Lightning won this deal because they got a player similar to St. Louis. And they also got a first round pick and a second round pick. And Callahan is a little bit younger, so that's kind of a bonus too into the deal. But it wasn't a huge win necessarily. St. Louis is also a good player. So I think the Lightning just won this trade, just by not too much, because both are good players. The next trade I'm going to be talking about is the Roberto Luongo trade. I got to say, I think Florida won this deal, but also I'm going to say I think Luongo kind of wanted a deal for this to happen. I know Florida's not a playoff team this year, but I think he wanted out Luongo just because he was I don't know how to say this, but he wasn't getting kind of the amount of respect he wanted. It's because when Schneider was there in Vancouver, him and Schneider were just kind of we're just kind of trying to both get the starting job, and I think Schneider kind of won the job from Luongo. So Luongo kind of had to play as a backup for a year, had to play as a backup. And they're trying to move him, and he wanted out. Luongo desperately wanted out. And then what happens? Schneider gets traded because I'm pretty sure Vancouver, because I think Luongo's contract was too big to be moved, and they wanted way too much for Luongo. I think that's what I heard. All they got for Luongo was Jacob Markstrom, a questionable goaltender if he's kind of a questionable starter, if he's really good enough to be a starter, and they got Sean Matthias, a guy who can be a good third liner, top end fourth liner. But honestly, that's kind of too. That's not enough, because that's not enough for Luongo. Because now, what do you have, Vancouver? You have Jacob Markstrom and Eddie Lack, two unproven goaltenders, and yeah, and the trade it's pretty good for Florida. They got a veteran goaltender like Luongo who can play good, and like say the Panthers, kind of get a better defensive core for next season, a better offense, a better team all around in front of Luongo. I think they'll have a good chance for the playoffs. But I think this was just a deal that had to be happen for Luongo and for Vancouver. But I think Vancouver kind of got not enough for Luongo, and I think they should have just traded Luongo when Schneider was here, because now they have two questionable goaltenders in net. Also, guys, sorry about how I'm talking. It sounds kind of nervous. Just I'm trying to go quickly, and my throat, it doesn't feel too good right now. Okay, so the next trade I'm gonna be talking about the Ruutu trade. Should I talk about that trade? I don't think I really want to talk about it too much, since I don't know too much about Loktionov, who was traded in the deal, and I don't know too much about Ruutu, so I'm not sure if I really want to talk about that deal too much. I'll talk about the Andrew McDonald deal. I think both teams won in this deal, so I'll just tell you the deal itself. Who got who. So the Flyers got Andrew McDonald, a good top four defenseman in my opinion. I saw him play against the Capitals last night, and he actually played pretty well. Like, he made some good plays, some smart moves. He wasn't too nervous. And what the Islanders got back was 2 draft picks and Matt Mangini, a prospect, I believe. I think the 2 picks were a second and a third, and that's not too bad for McDonald. And also they got the prospect, which they kind of need prospects right now, New York. So I think that was good that they got the prospect and the 2 picks, because the 2 picks are 2 more prospects. And I'm pretty sure McDonald was going to become a free agent. So I think they got a pretty decent amount of value for McDonald. And I think the Flyers got a good defenseman. So I think both teams won, because both teams got what they needed for right now. I think I'm going to talk about the Victor Fast deal now. So I think the Oilers got goaltender Victor Fast from the Anaheim Ducks for 2 draft picks. I think they were, it was a second and a third. I'm not sure what year they were, but I gotta give my hats off to the Oilers for making this deal. This was a great deal for the Oilers, because they got a goaltender who I think has proven that he can be a starter for sure. Like, he's been playing well on Anaheim this season, or he was playing well, and all they had to give up was 2 picks, which don't seem too big for them, because the picks were not a first, and the second and third, you don't like giving up those picks, but if you're getting a goaltender like Victor Fast, I think it helps. So now, if you look at the Oilers, they have Victor Fast and Ben Scrivens, and I think that's a good 1-2 punch, because now they have a good starter. They fixed their goaltender problem for now. If Victor Fast can play like how he has been playing, and Ben Scrivens can be a good backup. So I think now the Oilers, just like I said, they now have the goaltender in place. Next is just the defense. I think the offense is good for now, so I think now they just need the defense, and I think they'll be a team that can truly compete for the playoffs. So I really have to give credit to the GM of the Oilers for making this deal happen. They really got what they needed desperately, and they didn't give up too much. They got them for pretty cheap value. So I think I'm gonna say the Oilers won this deal. Brizgalov was traded to the Minnesota Wild for a 5th round pick. Again, I'm not too sure about the years for these picks, so sorry about that. But I think this deal was just a deal just to get some cap off the Oilers, because they just got Victor Fast, I think. So this was just to get some cap away from the Oilers, and I think the reason the Wild wanted a goalie like Brizgalov was because Backstrom's injured right now. I believe, I'm not sure for how long. I'm sure it's for pretty long. But I think this is a good deal for both teams, because the Oilers got rid of some unnecessary cap, and the Wild got a goalie that they needed right now, like right away. Because Harding, I'm not sure if he can replace Backstrom for right now, and I think Brizgalov can. So let's talk about the next deal. So I think both teams won in that deal. I was gonna talk about the Miller deal, but I think it happened a while ago, like last week, so I don't really want to talk about it. I just wanted to talk about the trades that happened yesterday on Wednesday or Tuesday. So yeah, I think that's all the trades that I had to mention. So remember, leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you have not already. And also, remember guys, this is just my opinion. It's fine if you don't agree, just don't get all mad about it saying, oh, you suck, the Ducks won that deal, or whatever. Remember, it's just my opinion. You guys have your own. You can always write your opinion down in the comments below. So, and anyways, leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you have not already.